Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel Code and Create. It is great to have you here as we continue building out this portfolio website together. I hope you've been finding these videos helpful and enjoying the progress we're making. In our last part, we took on the experience and education section where we brought a dynamic timeline to life, showcasing our journey and milestones in an engaging and interactive way. We added animations, polished the layout, and really gave our portfolio that professional and personalized touch. Now it's time to move forward and dive into the skills section, which is crucial for any developer's portfolio. In this part, we're going to create a visually appealing grid that highlights our technical abilities and the tools we use daily. This section is all about showcasing what we are capable of and making a strong impression on potential employers or clients who view our portfolio. We will display each skill with its corresponding icon and label, providing a quick overview of our expertise in various technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and more. To give this section a bit of flair, we'll be using Framer Motion to animate the icons as they appear on the screen. These smooth animations will make the skills feel dynamic, drawing the viewer's attention and making this section look polished and engaging. These animations and effects are not just for aesthetics, they also add an extra layer of professionalism to our portfolio, showing off our attention to detail. Before we get started, if you're enjoying this series or if you're here for the first time, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell. This way you won't miss out on any upcoming parts of this series. And if you have any thoughts or questions as we go along, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Now let's jump into building skills section and make our portfolio even more impressive. The first thing that I'm going to do is to create new components in the components folder. Let's call the file skills.js. Then as usual, we have to create a new functional component. Let's use RAFCE shortcut. So here we have the new functional component. I'm going to get rid of this import statement. Then I'm going to add here use client. We explained use client in the previous parts for several times, so I'm not going to go through it anymore. Then I'm going to go to page.js file, where we have to import our newly created skills component. And also we have to nest it here. Let's insert skills. Alright, so if we go to the browser, we'll find here text skills. Next, I'm going to create JSX for our newly created component. I'm going to get rid of text skills. And here I'm going to insert heading, which we have already used for several times. I'm going to specify text attribute. And here I'm going to insert skills. Let's close the components. Then we have to import heading from subfolder. We need here sub and then heading. As you remember, the heading component is placed in this subfolder. So let's save and go to the browser. As you can see, we have here skills, heading skills, which is already customized and styled. Okay, let's go ahead and add other elements to our component. The next element that we need here is div. Then inside the div element, we need again div, in which I'm going to insert image components. We talked about this component as well in the previous parts. So here we need to add some attributes. The first one is src attribute. Right now, I'm going to insert here one of the skills images. So let's insert here skills folder. And then I'm going to select, let's say, next.js.png. As you know, we have skills folder here in which we store all the images regarding skills. Next, we need here alt attribute. I'm going to insert here skills image. Also, we need to insert here width and height. The width is going to be 100 As for the height, I'm going to insert here, again, 100. Finally, we need to import image component from next image. Let's go to the browser. So here we have the image of the next.js. The only thing that we have to do here is to create a paragraph. So let's insert here p tag, and I'm going to insert the name of the skill. I'm in the technology. In this case, we need next.js. Let's go to the browser. Okay, so here we have the paragraph, the image, the heading, everything is created. And now we have to style those elements. So let's go ahead and start with the first div element. I'm going to add here some classes. The first one is going to be minimum height, and I'm going to set it to screen. In this case, the height is going to be 100 viewport height. Next, we need flexbox. So we need here flex, followed by the flex call, because we're going to change the direction of the flex layout. And then in order to place the content in the center, we need items center and justify center. After that, I'm going to create some gap using gap y with the value 20. And also let's create padding horizontally using px with the value 96. Let's check the browser. So as you can see, these styles are applied to the content of this section. The image and the paragraph is placed in the center. And also we have padding on the left and right sides. Next, I'm going to customize the div element, which is placed after heading. So let's add here class name. I'm going to define width, and it's going to be full. I mean 100%. Then again, we need flexbox. Let's insert here flex. Then I'm going to insert here justify between in order to create some space between the flex items. Then I'm going to use flex wrap in order to place the images on different lines. Next, I'm going to create some gap using gap x with the value 8. And also let's create gap vertically using gap y. And the value is going to be 10. Next, we need LG breakpoint. For smaller screen sizes, we need gap y to be 6. Okay, after that, I'm going to customize the next div element, which is the wrapper of the image and the paragraph. So let's add here class name. First of all, I'm going to use again flexbox. Let's insert here flex. Then we need items center. Then justify content center in order to place the flex content in the center of the flex container. Then I'm going to create some gap horizontally. We need gap x with the value 3. Then I'm going to make the element rounded. The value will be XL. In this case, the border radius will be equal to 12 pixels. Next, we have border. The color of the border is going to be yellow, 500. Also, I'm going to change the background. Let's use here a sync, 200. And finally, I'm going to create some space inside the elements using px, padding horizontally. It's going to be 5. And then we need py. In this case, it's going to be 2. Also, I'm going to define padding horizontally. For smaller screen sizes, we need LG breakpoint, and the padding x is going to be 2. Okay, so as you can see, the item, skill item, is customized. Next, I'm going to customize the image. We have to make it a bit smaller. So let's go ahead and add to the image component class name. We need here height auto. As for the width, it's going to be 40 pixels. Therefore, I'm going to use an arbitrary value. Let's check the results. So now the image became smaller and we have nice and cool skill item. All right, finally, I'm going to customize the paragraph. Let's add here class name. I'm going to change the size of the text, let's set text to SM, and also change the color of the text. We need text gray 600. So now that we have the structure and styling in place for our skill section, it's time to make it fully functional by displaying all the skills dynamically. For this, we are going to use the data that we've already prepared in our index.js file. So let's open this file here. This file will not only make our code cleaner and more organized, but will also allow us to easily add or modify skills in the future without touching the component code itself. So let's take a look at the skills data in our index.js file. Here is what we have set up. Each skill is represented as an object within an array called skills data. This array contains objects, and each object holds two key properties, name and icon. The name property is simply a string that describes the name of the skill, such as Figma, Photoshop, or React.js. It is what we will display as the label for each skill on our page. The icon property is a path to the image file that represents each skill. For example, skills figma.png and skills photoshop.png. These image paths will allow us to visually represent each skill using icons, making our skill section much more appealing and easy to comprehend at a glance. The icons give life to the section, offering a quick visual summary of our technical abilities. What's great about using this data-driven approach is that it makes our code modular and flexible. The skills data array is the single source of truth for all our skill items, so if we ever need to add a new skill, change an icon, or remove something, we can do it directly in the index.js file. This way we don't have to rewrite the component itself or modify its JSX structure. Everything is controlled by this data file. In the next step, we're going to take this skills data array and map over it to dynamically create each skill item in our skills component. This will allow us to display all the skills listed in our data in a neat and structured way. So let's jump into that. First of all, I'm going to import skills data from index.js file. We need import skills data from assets. Now that we have our skills data array set up, it's time to replace the hard-coded skill item in the JSX with a dynamic approach that displays all the skills from our data file. This will make our skill section more flexible and easier to manage in the future. So let's walk through this step by step. First, we're going to use the map method on the skills data array. As you already know, the map method allows us to loop through each item in skills data and create a skill block for each entry. This means that for every object in the array, we will generate a new JSX element. So right after here, I'm going to open curly braces, and then we need skills data.map. Then we need a callback function with two parameters, item and I. So inside this map method, we provide an inline callback function with two parameters. The item parameter represents the current object in the array during each iteration, and I is the index of that object. We use these parameters to dynamically populate the skill block with data from each object. Next, we have to grab the development and insert it inside the map function. So I'm going to grab this development and paste it here. Also, we need to insert here key prop with the value I. So as you remember, the key prop is crucial when rendering a list of elements in React. It helps React identify which items have changed, been added, or been removed, allowing it to efficiently update the UI. In this case, we use the index I from the map method as the key. While using the index is not always ideal, it's fine for our use case since our list is static and does not involve complex dynamic changes. Now let's replace the hard-coded image with a dynamic one. Here is how we update the image component. Instead of using a static path, we use item.icon from our skills data array as the source value. So instead of that path, I'm going to insert item.icon. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, now we have here different images, but the text is the same for every item. We have next.js because it is a hard-coded text, so we will take care of that in a minute. Again, we used here item.icon. This dynamically loads the correct image for each skill based on the data provided in index.js file. Now we have to modify the skill name to use the dynamic data. So instead of this hard-coded text here, I'm going to open curly braces and then insert here item.name. Now if we check the results, you will find here different names of the technologies. So all the skill items are displayed correctly. All right. So now that we have all our skills displayed, it's time to add some life to our skill section with animations and interactivity using Framer motion. Animations not only make the interface more engaging, but also add a touch of professionalism to our portfolio. So let's jump into it. First, we need to import motion from Framer motion. Let's go ahead and add import statement. We need here motion from Framer motion. As you remember, the motion component is a powerful feature of Framer motion that lets us animate almost any HTML element. By wrapping our elements with motion, we gain access to a wide range of animation properties and features that can be controlled using JavaScript. Next, let's go ahead and create an object named variants. This object will define the different states of our animation and how the transition between those states will happen. We'll be using this object later to define how each skill item appears on the screen. So here I'm going to create a new variable. It's going to be variants. It's going to be an object. I'm going to add here property called visible. It is a state. Then we need function with parameter I. And here I'm going to insert another object with 3 different properties. The first one is going to be opacity. I'm going to set it to 1. Then we need Y. It's going to be 0. And then I'm going to insert here transition, which itself will include an object. I'm going to insert here delay with the value 0.3 plus I multiplied by 0.07. And finally, I'm going to add here second state, which is hidden. I'm going to add here object with opacity 0, and then we need Y with the value 30. Okay, so let's go ahead and break this down in detail. We have 2 states here, visible and hidden. The visible state is a function that takes an index I as a parameter. This is important because we want each skill block to animate with a slight delay, creating a cascading effect. Inside the visible state, we are setting opacity to 1 and Y to 0, which means the element will be fully opaque and positioned at its natural vertical location. I mean that the element will be placed in its normal default position in the layout. Essentially, this is where the element would appear if there were no animations or transformations applied to it. The transition property inside the visible state is where we define the animation behavior. We use a delay that starts at 0.3 seconds and increments by 0.07 seconds for each skill item based on its index I. This delay creates a staggered animation, making each skill appear one after the other, adding a really nice effect. Next we have hidden state. The hidden state is pretty straightforward. It sets the opacity to 0, making the element invisible, and moves it 30 pixels downwards along the y-axis. This is the starting state of each skill block before it animates into view. Now that we've defined our animation states in the variants object, we need to apply these to our skill blocks. To do this, we have to replace the div that wraps each skill item with motion div. This allows us to take full advantage of Framer motion's features. So I'm going to add here motion for both opening and closing tags. After that, we have to add several attributes to our motion div. The first one is going to be custom, and I'm going to make it I. This attribute is used to pass the index of each skill block to the variance object. Remember, in our variance definition, the visible state is a function that takes an index I and calculates the delay for the animation. By using custom with the value I, we are ensuring that each skill item animates with the correct delay, creating the staggered effect. Next, I'm going to insert here variance, and I'm going to make it equal to variance. This connects our motion component with the variance object we created earlier. This is how Framer Motion knows what the initial and while in view states should do, as well as how to handle the animation transitions. Next, I'm going to insert here initial, and the value is going to be hidden. This sets the initial state of the animation to hidden, which we defined in the variance object. This means each skill block will start with an opacity of 0 and be shifted down by 30 pixels before the animation begins. If we check the results in the browser, you will find here that all the skill items are hidden. Now, let's go back and add here another attribute, which is while in view. The value is going to be visible. This is where the magic happens. It specifies that when the skill block enters the viewport, it should transition to the visible state defined in the variance object. In other words, the element will animate into view as the user scrolls down to this section. Let's go to the browser and reload the page. So the skill items are displaying with some fade effect, but that's not what we need here. We might have a mistake. So let's go ahead and check the object variance. We have here visible states in which we have function, then opacity 1, y 0, transition with delay. So here everything seems to be correct. Then we have hidden, opacity, and y. So in the variance object, everything's correct. Let's go down and check the attributes. Actually, I have here a typo. We need custom st. Let's go to the browser and reload the page. So here we go. Now we have this cool effect. Everything works perfectly. All right, now I'm going to add hover effect to the skill items. So I'm going to add here another attribute. It's going to be while hover, and it should be equal to scale 1.1. This attribute defines a hover effect for the skill blocks. When a user hovers over a skill, the element will scale up by 10%, adding a nice interactive touch. This effect is immediate and adds a subtle layer of interactivity that makes the UI more engaging. Besides that, I'm going to add one more attribute. It is viewport. The value is going to be an object with margin. We need here 50 pixels, and also we need once with the value true. So this attribute allows us to control when the while in view animation is triggered. By setting margin 50 pixels, we are saying that the animation should start even before the element fully enters the viewport, providing a smoother visual experience. The once with the value true ensures that the animation only occurs the first time the element comes into view, which can be useful for keeping the animation sequence clean and simple. Now let's go to the browser and test if everything works fine. So, as you can see, everything works perfectly. Now if we scroll up and then scroll down, the animation will no longer run because we have property called once with the value true. Let's reload again the page. So here we have this nice and cool animation. Okay, so by implementing these changes, we've added a dynamic and interactive feel to the skill section. Now each skill block will smoothly animate into view as the user scrolls with a cascading effect created by the staggered delays. Additionally, the hover effect makes the skill section more engaging and visually appealing. Now that we've completed this skill section, we've not only showcased our technical abilities, but also added a layer of interactivity that truly elevates the user experience. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the upcoming parts of this series. I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions in the comments below, so feel free to drop a message. In the next part, we're going to tackle the review section, where we will add some fantastic elements to showcase feedback and testimonials, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.